horizon lines. Who gives a shit? We'll cross the line to some filmmaking nerd. An epic wide or establishing shot is a great way to show your viewer where the action is taking place. Being able to draw the horizon line properly in our storyboards gives us a tool for creating those wide and establishing exterior shots. Our main challenge with drawing these shots is where to place our characters in the frame, so they don't look like they're floating away or buried in the ground. Let's have a go at drawing some basic characters in a wide shot. Let's start by placing the horizon line and a character smack bang in the center. Now, if we wanted to draw a second character further away, they would appear smaller. But why would they appear smaller? Let's do a little bit of science, shall we? Let's draw a quick frame with a horizon in the center again and chuck in two characters. One we can see their whole body, and the other, who is closer to the camera, we can just see from their shoulders to their knees. Let's now draw the setup from the side view to see what's going on. The camera would be parallel to the ground. We would have one character close to the camera. The camera's field of view would be like that, cutting off the head and lower legs. Then we would have our second character further from the camera. Notice how the second character's proportion in the camera's field of view roughly matches the proportion in the frame. Same with the character closest to the camera. Let's do another one with the camera very close to the ground, tilted upwards, creating a low angle shot. One character in the distance again, and one close to the camera where we can just see their feet and legs. Let's draw the camera setup from the side again. Camera low to the ground, character close to the camera. Let's get the field of view and let's place the second character. Again, we can see both characters' proportion in the camera's field of view is also reflected in our frame. What we can also see is why we see just the feet and the legs of the character in the foreground, while at the same time see the whole of the character in the background. Back into drawing peoples. So we know why objects appear smaller when further away and bigger when closer. But what position do our characters need to be in the frame? Where are they meant to live in the frame? There's an easy rule for that. If it's a one-point perspective shot, for example like a Wes Anderson or Stanley Kubrick film, the horizon line is center frame. When drawing our characters, we need to line up their center with the horizon line, like so. If it's a low angle shot, the horizon line would be low in the frame. Our character's feet or ankles would line up with the horizon line. For a high angle shot, the horizon line would be high in the frame, with our characters' heads all lining up with the horizon. So there are three tricks for creating depth which can be done with characters and objects. The first one we've already covered is scale. Objects that are comparatively smaller appear further away while larger objects appear closer. So for a tree to appear closer, we need to draw it comparatively larger than the other trees. The next is overlapping objects. When objects partially overlap other objects, we perceive them as closer than the covered objects. In this example, we make the trees appear further away by drawing them behind the other trees. And the last one is vertical placement. We perceive objects that are placed lower in the image as closer to us, and objects that are placed higher as being further away. This tree is scaled down, but also higher in the frame than the other trees, making it appear much further away. So that was the technical stuff. Let's now put all that info into some storyboard practice. Like the other videos, we'll use some scenes from famous films as our drawing reference. Just remember, storyboards aren't finished works of art. They're just a way of expressing our ideas. So if they look a bit garbage like the ones I'm about to draw, then you're on the right track.
Garbage day! Huh? No!
Here we have a straight shot from north by northwest. Firstly, we'll start by figuring out where the horizon line sits. Then, let's look at how our characters interact with the horizon line. You can see it passes through both their thighs, even though one character is closer to camera than the other. Then we can add a bit of detail, like the road. You'll notice most lines lead to a single point.
It's called a vanishing point.
Lastly, if this was an official storyboard, I'd add a couple of notes just so anyone looking at it knew what I was on about. The next scene is a low angle shot from road to perdition. Like before, we'll start by figuring out where the horizon line is. You'll notice, being a low angle shot, the characters line up on the horizon line just below their ankles. Next, we'll block out the silhouette of our main character. Then finally, add the other two characters plus a bit of set dressing. We can also do a rough bit of shading to make the characters stand out, and like last time, jot down some notes. Here's another shot from road to perdition. Geez, I hope I'm saying that properly. Same as always, we start with identifying the horizon line. And this one point perspective shot, as we can see from the road, points to a single point in the middle of the frame. This is a slight high angle shot, so the characters next line up with the horizon line. Again, we just need to block out the character shapes, as it's where they are placed, which makes the composition interesting.
Ooh.
Chuck in a few bits of environment detail, some notes, and Shazam, Dunsky. This next scene from James Bond, we go through the same process as before, but I just wanted to highlight the use of leading lines in this scene's composition. Notice how the mountains, hills, and road lead the viewer's eye to Bond and his Aston Martin.
Well, the game is afoot.
In this scene, we have a typical Mexican standoff. You'll notice it's a high angle shot as the horizon is high in the frame, making the characters' heads line up together. What's cool about this shot is its use of a triangle composition and how they have scaled each character in the frame. Lastly, a shot from Parasite. The director Bong Joon-ho does his own storyboards, which is really cool. Now, finding the horizon line on this shot is a little bit tricky, being that it's an interior shot. What we need to look for is some lines pointing in a horizontal direction, and bonus 2 flat lines that look parallel. We can spot one here with these light fittings. The further away the floor, ceiling, and wall planes are from the horizon line, the more diagonal and vertical they become. So now that we've found 2 parallel lines together, we can now map out where the horizon line is. This shot has purposeful framing, so we'll stick the vertical line in for the wall first. Then start blocking out our main character. Because the 2 characters at the table are sitting, they of course won't line up with the character in the foreground. Instead, we'll drop them a little lower. Again, a little bit of detail and some notes with my horrendous handwriting. So now it's your turn to find a few scenes you really like and have a crack at finding the horizon line and drawing characters correctly in your frame.
And we're live. Riveting. Now for the weather with Stacey.
Stacey, mate, put your globe down.